2 days. Just 2 days. Yet within those 2 days, global perception began to shift. Not because of a major battle, not because a city fell, but because a sequence of messages was received at the same time. The question that emerged was not about Ukraine, not about Russia. It was far more sensitive. What does NATO actually represent here? Not because NATO has been defeated, but because NATO is not present. And it is precisely in that absence that Russia began to speak. Quietly, deliberately, without urgency. The war in Ukraine has changed its nature. It is no longer only about weapons, no longer only about territory, no longer only about logistics. It is about perception, about time, about controlled escalation. Russia understood this shift early. Moscow recognized that defeating an adversary does not always require territorial conquest. Sometimes it is enough to disrupt confidence. The West, by contrast, continues to rely on symbols, on technological imagery, on narratives of qualitative superiority. This is where the divergence appears. The West seeks to demonstrate capability. Russia seeks to demonstrate control. And in prolonged conflicts, control often matters more than speed. Oreshnik did not emerge as a technical surprise. It emerged as a strategic signal. Russia did not present it with panic, nor with celebration. It was introduced calmly, almost routinely, because its primary message was not destruction. Its message was existence. Oreshnik does not say we will destroy everything. Oreshnik says we still have room. Room to escalate, room to pressure, room to delay. In the world of deterrence, showing that options remain is power in itself. And Russia wanted the world to understand one thing clearly. Escalation has not reached its ceiling, and Moscow is not at the end of the road. The F-16 arrived in Ukraine as more than an aircraft. It arrived carrying hope, political meaning, and strategic promise. For Ukraine, the F-16 represents reassurance that Western support continues. For NATO, it represents credibility. And for Russia, it represents a symbol to be tested. When Russia claims that an F-16 can be brought down, whether true or not, the message is already working. Not in the sky, not on radar screens, but in the mind. And Russia understands exactly where pressure is most effective. Acknowledging the loss of a symbol is never about a single aircraft. It is about morale. It is about narrative. It is about political leverage. In a prolonged war, morale determines endurance. Narrative determines support. And leverage determines position at any future negotiating table. That is why symbols are protected so carefully, because once a symbol collapses, the damage cannot be repaired quickly. And Russia understands this dynamic extremely well. Russia never technically stated that Oreshnik was used against an F-16, but the public linked them, analysts linked them, media linked them, and Russia allowed it to happen. Because the intended message was not technical, it was hierarchical. We possess a new level of capability, yet we have not even needed it to challenge your existing symbols. This is not provocation, it is framing. And controlled framing is often far more difficult to counter than open threats. NATO chose not to react forcefully, no dramatic rhetoric, no sudden escalation, no urgent declarations. Is this weakness? No, it is strategic restraint. But public perception does not always follow strategic logic. To many observers, silence can resemble hesitation, and Russia exploits the gap between elite calculation and public perception, not to win the war today, but to slowly erode confidence. The United States adopted a technical, measured tone, brief statements, neutral language, no emotion. Washington did not want to elevate this moment into a global spectacle because excessive reaction would amplify Russia's message. In many major conflicts, true power is demonstrated not by what is said, but by what is deliberately ignored, and the United States chose to ignore this stage. Ukraine faces the most difficult position. It must fight, it must hope, it must reassure. Acknowledging the loss of a symbol means opening several wounds at once. Morale may weaken, narrative may shift, leverage may decline. Denial, therefore, becomes a rational choice, not necessarily deception, but survival. Ukraine fights on the battlefield, and simultaneously on the battlefield of perception. Its room to maneuver remains limited, and time does not always cooperate. Russia is not speaking only to the West. It is speaking to distant observers, to undecided states, to a world fatigued by unilateral dominance. The message is not aggressive. It is suggestive that the West can be challenged, that a new balance is possible, that the world is no longer singular. In geopolitics, this perception matters as much as military power. Russia is not saying we are winning. Russia is saying something colder. You have not intimidated us. This is not ordinary propaganda. It is deterrence language, because states under genuine pressure tend to act recklessly. Russia seeks to demonstrate the opposite: calm, measured, in control of tempo. Russia has not won everything, but Russia has won this moment. NATO remains strong, the United States remains dominant. Yet their caution has created space for Russia to project confidence on the global stage of perception. This is not the end of the war, nor a final conclusion. It is a signal that in the modern era, wars are not decided only by the most powerful weapons, but by those who best control narrative, timing, and escalation. At this point, the real question is not who is winning today. The real question is where the world is heading next. That is what we should reflect on together, not to choose sides emotionally, not to absorb propaganda uncritically, but to understand geopolitical reality with clarity and discipline. If you value analysis like this, calm, structured, and independent, your support helps sustain this channel. By subscribing, you help ensure that discussions like this remain thoughtful, measured, and free from sensationalism. And an important note: this video is not intended to promote violence, justify war, or incite hostility toward any nation. All content is presented for educational and analytical purposes only. Because understanding conflict does not mean celebrating it, and critical thinking will always matter more than choosing sides. Thank you for watching. We will continue this discussion in the next video.